Star Wars Young Jedi Knights Crisis at Crystal Reef, Chapter 3. It was the start of a perfect morning as Zeke could ever remember. Outside, bright sunshine poured down on the Jedi Academy, and a fresh breeze carried the scents of 1,000 luscious jungle plants wafted in through the thick stone window openings. The young Jedi Knights were used to getting up very early, and today they had special reasons, since Peckham was due to leave. In the morning meal, Jaina greeted Zeke and Peckham with a hug. There had been no mistaking the pride in her eyes when she saw the new lightsaber hanging at Zeke's belt. Looks like a fine weapon, Zeke. If you want a sparring partner later on, come and see me. After I show Master Skywalker. Hey, Jason said as he sauntered in, grinning. 2 Gamorrean guards were walking down a narrow, deserted canyon when suddenly a Rancor comes across and starts chasing them. One of the Gamorreans stops to put out his best running shoes. Don't waste time, shouts the other one. You cannot run a Rancor with those. I don't have to outrun a Rancor, says the first one, as he finishes lacing his shoes. I have to outrun you. A chorus of chuckles and the groans rewarded him. With additional jokes, Jason was in rare form during the meal, and they all laughed so hard it was difficult to choke as they ate. Tenel Ka offered a rare toast of friendship to the entire group seated at the table. Lowy surprised them all by presenting a dramatic Wookiee speech, while EMTD provided hilariously inaccurate translations, which the companions now recognized in their increasing grasp of Lowy's native language. Jaina sparkled with good humor, teased old Peckham throughout the meal, and squeezed Zeke's hand under the table. The spacer laughed and enjoyed the attention. Even when it was time to Peckham to go, Zeke's mood could not be dampened. I'm sorry you couldn't meet Anja, he told the spacer. I knocked on the door at her quarters, but she didn't answer. Must be keeping to herself again, and she's got a lot of things to work out in her head. Besides, her communication skills weren't always the greatest. As they left the temple and walked through the dim quarters leading out, old Peckham gave Zeke a mock stern look. Speaking of communication skills, if I hadn't switched schedules with another freighter pilot so I could come to Yavin 4 and visit my old Jedi trainee, I might not have heard about your progress for another month. You didn't mention you were going to build a lightsaber last week when I talked to you. Zeke hunched his shoulders. Sorry I didn't tell you. I guess I was afraid I might fail. There was a chance that I might build a faulty weapon and have thrown it away and start all over. Worse, I thought I might be the wrong kind of blade trying to draw me back to the dark side. The old spacer gave him a thoughtful nod. I understand that, but don't forget you can trust me. I like to know what something important's going on in your life, and I'm always willing to rearrange my schedule so we can share a special occasion with you. Jaina snorted. And you can put that nonsense about going over the dark side behind you, Zeke. Thanks for trusting me, Zeke said in a low voice as they all merged into the sunlight in front of the Jedi Academy. That trust was what gave me the strength to leave the dark side for good. The trust of friends is rare and important, Tenel Ka observed. Lowy crooned his agreement. They walked down several steps toward the landing field. Several New Republic soldiers milled about taking readings at freshly scorched spot on the ground. A group of assorted investigators stood beside the small graft bay in the pyramid's lowest level, talking in urgent tones with the night shift guard who had been on duty the evening before. Preoccupied with the old man's departure, the companions began walking across the grass with Peckham toward the Thunderbolt. Suddenly, Zeke stopped, and turned back to the burned, empty spot in the landing field. His mouth fell open. He blinked in confusion. You didn't have to move my ship inside, Jaina. I could have done it myself. Of course, I know that flying a ship is never hard work for you, but... No, Jaina said. I haven't been anywhere near the lightning rod this morning. Something's wrong, Jason said. Old Peckham looked cautiously at the spot where his former ship had been when he arrived the day before, but the lightning rod was nowhere to be seen. Ah, Tenel Ka said in a matter-of-fact voice. Aha. Jason drew a deep breath, let it out slowly. I've got a bad feeling about this. Inside the shadows of the small craft bay, Luke Skywalker left the other members of the investigation team and marched purposely toward Zeke. The dark-haired man felt a cold twist in his stomach as his suspicions grew. Master Skywalker looked directly into his green eyes. Zeke, I'm afraid Anja's taking your ship. Later, after Peckham's tight schedule had forced him to leave, the young Jedi gathered in Luke Skywalker's office. Jaina squirmed as she watched a storm of emotions cross Zeke's face. Anja stole the lightning rod? He said through gritted teeth. And she ran away from Jedi Academy? Luke nodded patiently. She caught the hangar guard by surprise and took off before any of the orbital forces could stop her. Zeke went on fuming. Anja's a thief, and I want my ship back. What are we going to do about it? We've got to find her. Jaina cleared her throat. We could unmask Mom and Dad, some security forces. Maybe they can track down the lightning rod, whatever ends up taking it. Or they could probably issue some bulletins to the authorities on various planets. Jason's voice trailed off. Luke raised his eyebrows and pursed his lips, waiting for a full minute of silence before he spoke. As for Anja leaving the Jedi Academy, that is her choice. Not only is she adult, she is not exactly a Jedi. We can't stop her from leaving if she wants to. But she can't take my ship to do it, Zeke said. No, that's true enough. But first... He spread his hands and gazed around at his assembled friends. Will you tell me, is she a criminal or a friend? Would you like to have her arrested? Zeke squirmed at Jedi Master's question. Too bad we can't still send people to the spice mines of Kessel, he grumbled. Each of the young Jedi Knights shook their heads in turn. Incarceration would serve no purpose, Tenelka said. I believe she must have been desperate. Jaina looked down at her hands in her lap, and I think we know why she was desperate. Loie woofed an observation. Jason nodded and said in a low voice, Spice. She was going through withdrawal, Zeke said, meeting Master Skywalker's eyes. Do you believe she intends to keep your ship, or even sell it? Luke asked, in order to get the credits to buy spice. Jaina was surprised, and they all reacted instantly. Loie bellowed a protest. Indeed not, EMTD added. She wouldn't do that. I think she's planning to bring it back, Jason said in a confident voice. Jaina bit her lower lip. I have a feeling she's in more trouble than we all know. Luke stood. Then I'd say this isn't exactly a job for New Republic security. Don't you think this is a situation that her friends, 5 Jedi Knights, not to mention one extremely talented droid, could handle on their own? They all agreed, and the Jedi Master left them alone to discuss the details. At least we've got the Jet Rock Dragon, Jaina said. She's a good fast ship. But how will we find her? We can hardly go running from system to system with a large holograph asking, Have you seen this girl? Jason pointed out. Loie gave a long grumble. Master Lobaka suggests that perhaps we could consult with some of the moon guarding forces stationed in orbit around the moon. They might have tracked the lightning rod's initial vector, Jaina agreed. Zeke shrugged. I'll take any lead we can get. Within 5 minutes, the companions all stood in the comm center. On half the screen, a weary-eyed officer was obviously off-duty, rubbed a hand over his eyes. The other half of the screen displayed a star map. I'm sorry, the shift officer said. We tried to scan the ship's nav computer before it went into hyperspace, but most we were able to determine was the lightning rod was headed for one of the systems in this sector. It still covers hundreds of planets. Glowing white lines appeared around a segment of the space in the star map. We've got a team on it. Thanks, Jason said, trying to sound enthusiastic. You've been a big help. The portion of the screen that held the officer's face went blank, leaving only the star map. Tenelka's cool gray eyes narrowed suddenly, as something had just occurred to her. Jason, my friend, what joke did Anja attempt to make yesterday when you sent she was going through withdrawal? I can't remember the exact words. Something about Kessel, but I don't see what that has to... Oh. Jaina said, Under stress, it's not unusual for people to joke what's really on their minds. Zeke also mentioned the space mines, Tenelka pointed out, because of one of Anja's addiction, or because of her joke. A snow grin spread across Zeke's face. He pointed toward the star map still covering half the screen. And Kessel just happens to be right in the middle of that sector.